If you found this video, then probably you know what the Health and Social Care Network is in the UK, otherwise known as the HSCN. So I won't belabor this point, but effectively it's a framework for private network connectivity that lets all the various health and care organisations around the UK connect together in a scalable and expedient fashion. And this network used to be called N3, if you're familiar with that. Now, a common question when a customer migrates their on-premises workloads into public cloud is, how do I maintain connectivity to the HSCN network, where I might need connectivity to remain in place to my B2B partners and other customers on the HSCN network that haven't moved into public cloud. Now, whilst I'm not an expert in all things healthcare networking in the UK, I do live in the UK, I work extensively with UK customers, and I spend all of my time working on Azure networking for Microsoft. Therefore, I'm going to share my experiences and learnings in a very concise video on this subject. So the scenario here is you have a customer, customer A, and they're moving their apps and data into Microsoft Azure. Inside of Microsoft Azure, they then want to maintain connectivity into this thing that we're notionally calling HSCN to connect to other customers. You may have come across documents such as this one around HSCN connectivity options. This one's primarily focused on on-premises customers. NHS Digital do also have a document focused on guidance for public cloud connectivity, of course Azure being one of those public cloud CSPs. First thing I would call out is the approach that I'll lay out in this video relies on ExpressRoute for connectivity out of Azure, and in fact this document does mention ExpressRoute extensively. But what I would call out, which is very important, the NHS Internet First policy does obviously ask you to step back and ask the question, could this be delivered over the internet with appropriate security controls? But that's outside the scope of this video. So what I'm going to zoom in on here is one of the use cases laid out in this document, which I'll leave a link to below, which effectively is, how do I get from my CSP into my customer network via an approved provider? Now, if you've spent any time with HSCN, you'll know that an approved provider is referred to as a CNSP, a consumer network service provider, of which there are around about 20 in the UK, and they are publicly listed in this document here, which I'll leave a link to below. Effectively, if you want to connect your network to HSCN, you need to work with one of these providers. So what's the implication of that if you're moving to Azure and you want to maintain connectivity to HSCN? Well, let's think about it by using this diagram. You have your Azure VNet over here on the right hand side. You have these customers down here that you wish to connect to. We need to somehow get from the HSCN network into Azure. As we said before, the HSCN is a framework. It's made up of various approved service providers, these CNSPs, these red boxes here. And inside of the framework, they connect to each other using the peering exchanges around the UK. So ultimately, we need a way to bridge the gap between the CNSP's network and Azure. And the way in which this is commonly done is to, first of all, identify a CNSP that you've worked with before or is on the approved list, and then to understand what is that CNSP's capabilities when it comes to ExpressRoute. ExpressRoute being our way of providing private connectivity to your network out of Azure via one of our points of presence around the UK. Again, not to belabor the point with a technical video, but ultimately you take from your VNet a gateway which connects to an ExpressRoute circuit, which is a logical connection between the Microsoft routers, these MSEEs, and the equipment of a network partner that's worked with Microsoft to provide this connectivity. Your CNSP, who can provide HSCN connectivity, perhaps they can also provide ExpressRoute connectivity. And what this boils down to is comparing this list here of 20 or so approved CNSPs with the lists that Microsoft publish for partners that have worked with us to set up ExpressRoute connectivity in our various points of presence around the UK. So for example here, we know that British Telecom, BT, can sell you an ExpressRoute circuit. And if we look down this list here, BT are also a CNSP. If you're a BT customer and you want to maintain connectivity from HSCN into Azure, you would provision an ExpressRoute circuit from BT, work with them with the appropriate commercials on a HSCN network attached. And then you would ask them to stitch it together effectively. They would be, the red box here would be the glue between your on-premises site or other customers' on-premises sites and Azure. Effectively, they would take ExpressRoute on one side, HSCN on the other side, and stitch it together. They would be that glue there. There's also a second model, which is, I would say, a more common model. You look in this list here of approved CNSPs. Either you have an incumbent relationship with them or you're planning to work with them. For example, someone like RedCentric or Cloud Gateway. And then you come into the list of approved Microsoft ExpressRoute partners and you don't see them on the list. That's not to say that they cannot provide that solution for you. In fact, a lot of these partners can do just that. For example, here's a company called Exponential E, who are marketing such a service on the digital marketplace. Here's some examples in the Azure marketplace of Cloud Gateway offering a product called Health Connect, which effectively is HSCN connectivity. And also we have RedCentric here talking about HSCN connectivity for Azure. And effectively what these partners are doing is they imagine that particular partner is the red box here. They have the tick in the box for HSCN, so they can, on the left-hand side, they can attach to HSCN. On the right-hand side, even though they're not a native ExpressRoute partner, they'll work with a intermediate partner, somebody like Equinix, to provide that connection in the middle here. And often that's transparent to you as a customer. So you'll say to, for example, RedCentric in this example, please sell me some connectivity between my Azure tenant and either my legacy customer network or just HSCN in general. They will stand up this end-to-end connection for you and manage that intermediate party. There is one additional point I would like to call out before finishing the video, and this is something more of a breadcrumb for you to think about as you potentially deploy a service like this, and that is one of resilience. So as you can see in this diagram here, if you take a single ExpressRoute from Microsoft, you'll get resilient paths with separate routers on our side and separate routers on the partner side. But all of this will be happening inside of the same location. So a common discussion point is whether or not you need another one of these green boxes here, another ExpressRoute circuit in another peering location. And if you go down that approach, then in my experience, what also comes into focus is the particular peering network that your CNSP is using inside of HSCN. There's multiple peering networks for resilience. So generally you want to tie up multiple ones of these with multiple ones of these if you need that strict geographical resilience for your end-to-end HSCN to Azure networking connectivity. So if you were looking at moving to Azure and maintaining HSCN, I hope you found this video useful.